A very good morning, students. Today we will be discussing about voyage in progress. So first let us understand what is voyage in progress and how is the accounting treatment for voyage in progress. So what is incomplete voyage? As discussed earlier, voyage accounting is done in case of shipping companies. Shipping companies are those companies which transport freight and passengers from one place to that of the other place over sea. As they carry on business, it is very important for them to know the results of the marine business or shipping business, for which voyage accounts are prepared. This is what we discussed in the previous class. So this voyage account is prepared to know the profit or loss on each voyage or shipment undertaken by the shipping company. Usually, the voyage will be planned in such a way that the voyage would be completed within the accounting year. If the voyage is completed within the accounting year, we term it as a complete voyage. And the expenses and the income are taken for that year in the voyage account. But now the question is, what if the voyage is not complete within the accounting year? So sometimes during the accounting year, if the shipping company has not completed or the ship has not completed its voyage, it is considered as voyage in progress. That means the voyage is still in progress. And this voyage is termed as incomplete voyage. Next, moving on, how are we going to do the accounting treatment in case of incomplete voyage? So what is the accounting treatment for incomplete voyage? Accounting for incomplete voyage is done on the basis of matching concept. Now let's recall what is this matching concept. So matching concept propounds or tells us that expenses of current year are compared with the incomes of current year. That means the current year expenses and current year expenses and current year incomes should be shown in that particular year only. So your expenses are written off against the income of that particular year. I repeat, the expenses of the current year is to be written off against the incomes of the current year. So the amount relating to the incomplete voyage must be carried forward to the next year. So in case of incomplete voyage accounts, the amount which is not related to the current voyage, that is amount related to the incomplete voyage, is carried forward to the next year. It could be the income or it could be the expense. So in case of expense, how are we going to take it? And in case of incomes, how are we going to take it? So in case of expenses pertaining to an incomplete voyage, it is shown as voyage in progress. Now the question is, on to which side? Under complete voyage, we had debited the expenses to the voyage account. But now the expenses which is not pertaining to that particular year, the expenses that is pertaining to the incomplete voyage will be shown on the opposite side, that is the credit side, under the heading voyage in progress. And coming to the incomes, in case of incomes also, the income on incomplete voyage is shown as voyage in progress on the debit side of the voyage account. So with this note, we could analyze how an incomplete voyage account will be there. So a complete voyage will not have the reference of provisions for voyage in progress. But in case of incomplete voyage, there is a provision for carrying forward the expenses or the incomes that is not pertaining to the current year. So expenses and incomes pertaining to the incomplete voyage is carried forward onto the opposite side. The freight, primage, and passage money relevant to the incomplete voyage is debited to your voyage account. Similarly, the expenses pertaining to the incomplete voyage is taken onto the credit side before balancing your profit and loss. So after making this adjustment, along with the normal adjustments, we are going to calculate the balancing figure that could be a profit or that could be a loss. Okay. Now moving on to the special adjustments in case of freight and in case of expenditure in an incomplete voyage. So how do we treat the freight that we have received? We have two important steps. First step, credit the total freight received to the voyage account. So whatever freight you have received, credit it to the account. The freight inward or outward, primage and passage, credited to the account. That's the first step. And now, how much are we going to? So we have to take only the income pertaining to complete voyage. Income pertaining to incomplete voyage is to be transferred to voyage in progress and debited to the account. That's the second step. So provision is created for the voyage in progress in proportion to the incomplete voyage. So in the problem, there will be a reference as to how much journey is complete and how much journey is incomplete. In that case, we have to take it in proportion to the incomplete voyage and take it to the debit side of the account. So this is very simple. But in case of expenditure, there are different cases of adjustments. Suppose the expenses which are related to the freight are given specifically, then you need to carry forward only to the proportion of the return freight, not the completed freight. For example, if the total freight is 25 lakhs, out of which the return freight is 12 lakhs, and the total expenditure for the freight is 5 lakh, then the expenses carried forward to the next year will be 2,40,000. Okay, and now coming to the, so, and it's calculated as 12 lakh divided by 25 lakh into 5 lakh. That means the current year complete voyage divided by the total voyage freight into the total expenses. So the expenses are distributed in proportion to the incomplete voyage. Sometimes there would be fixed charges, there could be standing charges. In that case, if the voyage is incomplete, half of the standing charges are to be carried forward. So in case of calculating the expenditure, you need to make a working note for voyage in progress. So standing charges, half of the journey has to be considered. So whatever would be the freight incomplete, that is not complete, journey is not complete, irrespective of the journey completed. If the journey is incomplete, then you take half the standing charges to the present, that is you take half the charges onto the debit side and half the standing charges onto the credit side under voyage in progress. So in case when the journey is halfway back, sometimes in the problem they will specify that the journey is halfway back. And in that case, the total expenses of voyage, how do we treat? You have to give half of the total expenses need to be carried forward. Okay. When the total journey is halfway back and the expenses is still date are given in the problem, then you take 1/3 of the expenses to the next year, that is to the voyage in progress. When one round of the trip is over, and on this halfway back for a single way and total expenses of the voyage are given, and then you are going to take 1/3 expenses. So 1/3 expenses are to be carried forward. Similarly, when one round trip is completed and on halfway back for a single way and expenses till date are given, then 1/5 expenses are to be carried forward. So these are to be considered in mind or kept in mind while calculating the work in progress in case of calculating the voyage in progress in case of incomplete voyage. So with this, we come to the end of the theory in case of incomplete voyage accounting. In the next class, we will start solving the problems. So with this, we end the class. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.